I'm Gretchen Hull, 32, working as a project manager in Jacksonville, Florida. It was 9:47 p.m. on a stormy Tuesday night when my phone suddenly lit up. My parents were calling. Their voices trembled with fear. "Please help us. The rent's overdue. We're about to lose everything." My mom's sobs tore through me, and hearing my dad, the man who never cried, sound so shaken made my heart sink. They said they needed $5,500 before morning, or they'd be kicked out of their Gainesville home. Without hesitation, I opened my banking app, entered the amount, and pressed send. When the confirmation pinged, it felt like I'd rescued them. I went to sleep believing I'd done the right thing. 3 days later, my phone buzzed while I was on a coffee break. A friend showed me a Facebook post from my older brother. A picture of him by a pool in Miami, cocktail in hand, captioned, "Family is complete, with just 3. The 3 of them were laughing, clinking glasses while I wasn't even there. My stomach dropped. Something was wrong. I checked the landlord's portal. The rent had already been paid weeks earlier. That $5,500 wasn't for rent. It was for that trip. My pulse raced as I stared at the screen, realizing this was only the start. Have you ever been betrayed by family like that? Share your story in the comments. I'd love to hear it. Helping my parents had always been part of my life. Growing up in Gainesville, I saw them struggle after Dad lost his construction job. When I moved to Jacksonville and became a project manager, things finally improved. With my recent raise, I thought I could finally make a difference. Sending money home was routine: $2,000 for mom's therapy in spring, $1,500 for a new water heater in July, $500 for groceries when their fridge went empty. I never asked questions. It was my way of staying connected. Our family group chat had blown up after my promotion. Mom filled it with heart emojis saying how proud she was. Dad wrote, "You're doing better than I ever did." My older brother, Mason, 35, stayed quiet as always. I didn't think much of it. Mason was distant, always chasing the next big thing but never landing it. Looking back, that silence should have told me everything. That Tuesday night call came out of nowhere. I'd just gotten home from a 12-hour day, my laptop still open with unread emails, when their panicked voices filled the line. "We're short $5,500, Mom rushed out. "The landlord's calling tomorrow," Dad added. "We can't lose the house, Gretchen." They had never sounded that desperate. I didn't even think to double-check. My fingers were already typing the transfer. By 10:03 p.m. the money was gone. I exhaled, thinking I'd saved the day. But something inside me twisted that Mom's voice had been too sharp. Dad's too quiet. They'd never pressured me before. Not for medical bills, not for repairs. I told myself it was just stress. I texted the group chat. "Money sent." Mom replied with a short thank you. Mason didn't react at all. I stared at my phone, unsettled. Why did it feel like something was off? That night I barely slept. Their words kept replaying in my head. Why hadn't they mentioned the landlord's name? Why had Dad been so vague? Families help each other, right? That's what I told myself. But the unease kept growing. 2 days later, still no word about the rent. Mom sent a photo of her garden. Dad mentioned a new diner in town. Nothing about the payment. Mason didn't respond at all. I thought about calling, but work swallowed me. Meetings, deadlines, new clients. Still, the doubt knotted tighter in my chest. Had I been too quick? Did I even ask when rent was due? Something didn't add up. I didn't know it yet, but that call was just the start of my trust unraveling. I kept circling back to Mason's silence. He never joined in unless there was money involved. I didn't want to believe it, but a voice inside me whispered, maybe he was behind this. I pushed it away, calling myself paranoid. But deep down, I knew the truth wouldn't stay hidden for long. 3 days after sending the money, I was at a cafe with my friend Parker, laughing over iced coffees. Then he slid his phone across the table. "You need to see this," he said quietly. It was Mason's Facebook post, him lounging poolside, cocktail raised, grinning with Mom and Dad. The caption hit like a punch. "Family is complete, with just 3. There they were, smiling under neon lights, while I just emptied my account for them. My chest ached. Parker's expression hardened. "That doesn't look like people worried about rent," he muttered. I barely heard him. My eyes were glued to the date. Posted Thursday, 2 days after I'd wired the money. Opened my banking app on the spot. Heart pounding, and checked the landlord's portal. Rent. Paid 2 weeks ago. Not overdue. Not even close. The $5,500 hadn't gone to bills. It had gone to Miami. That I sat frozen, coffee untouched, as the realization hit. My family had lied to me. Parker leaned in, voice steady. You need to find out what's going on. This isn't right. He was right. But even then, part of me wanted to call Mom, hear her explain it away. Maybe there was a mistake, I told myself. But deep down I already knew Mason's silence, their urgency, the missing truth. None of it was coincidence. Nothing was adding up. Parker didn't press me further. But his words echoed in my mind. You deserve to know the truth. I took a deep breath, steadying myself, and opened another tab on my phone. My next stop was the family bank account, the same one I'd been sending money to for years. I logged in, expecting to see the $5,500 there, maybe still pending or waiting to be paid to the landlord. But the numbers didn't line up. The balance was far lower than it should have been. No record of rent payments, no sign of my transfer, just a few small charges for gas, groceries, and coffee around Gainesville. My mind spun. Where had the money gone? I couldn't stop seeing Mason's photo, that smug grin, that caption that erased me. Family is complete with just 3. Was this his plan all along? To take my money and cut me out? Parker watched me closely, his face tense but kind. What are you going to do? He asked quietly. I didn't have an answer, not yet. But I knew one thing, I wasn't letting this slide. I started digging deeper, scrolling through transaction history, scanning every detail for clues. Each click felt heavier, like I was peeling back a truth I didn't want to find. Still, I couldn't stop. I needed to know what Mason had done, and why Mom and Dad were part of it. That night, I sat alone in my apartment, the only light coming from my laptop on the kitchen counter. The banking app still glowed on screen. Mason's poolside grin haunted me. Mom and Dad's laughter in Miami played on repeat in my mind. The rent, supposedly overdue, had been paid 2 weeks ago. My $5,500 was gone, and I was done guessing. I logged into the family account again, pulse racing. The transaction history loaded, and there it was, a loan approval for $20,000, taken out just a month ago, under my parents' names. My breath caught in my throat. Mildred and Henry didn't have the credit for a loan that size. Not with Dad's medical debt, not with Mom's part-time income. I scrolled further, desperate for my own transfer. But it wasn't there. Instead, I found withdrawals tied to a Miami hotel. $2,000 for a suite, $500 for a rooftop dinner, smaller bar charges, all dated the same week as Mason's Facebook post. The timeline matched perfectly. My stomach twisted. Mason had done this. He'd used Mom and Dad's names to get that loan, and my money had helped fund his getaway. Opened a new tab and searched for Brian Walsh, the lawyer I'd worked with on a contract last year. He answered on the second ring. Gretchen, what's going on? His voice was calm but alert. I told him everything. The fake rent crisis, the Miami photos, the $20,000 loan. This sounds like fraud, Brian said firmly. We need to freeze that account immediately. He walked me through the process step by step. Contacting the bank, submitting a report. By midnight, the account was locked tight. I refreshed the app, staring at the message confirming the freeze. No one could touch that money now, not Mason, not Mom, not Dad. It was a small victory, but my hands still trembled. I dug further into the transactions. A car rental in Miami, $800. A jewelry purchase, $300. Every charge screamed Mason's name. Each one linked to that same week of photos and laughter. I wanted to call him and scream, but I knew how that would go. He'd twist it around, lie his way out, make me feel guilty for asking. Instead, I opened my email and began to type. Mason, I wrote, fingers slamming the keyboard. I know about the loan. I know about Miami. The account is locked, and I've reported you for fraud. Explain yourself before this goes further. I hit send. My heart pounded in my ears. I didn't expect him to reply, not yet. Mason always ran when cornered, but at least now he knew I wasn't playing along anymore. I leaned back in my chair, staring at the timestamp glowing on the screen. 12:47 a.m. Brian called again before I went to bed. The bank started the investigation, he said. They'll need your parents' statements to confirm they didn't approve the loan. I nodded, even though he couldn't see me. What if they don't back me up? I asked quietly. He paused. Then we'll handle it another way. But for now, you did the right thing. I thanked him, but sleep didn't come. I kept thinking about that Tuesday call. Mom's trembling voice, Dad's silence. Were they victims? Or were they helping Mason? I closed the laptop, but my mind kept spinning. That $20,000 wasn't just money. It was years of trust, chipped away by lies that I thought about calling Mom, demanding answers, but I stopped myself. I needed evidence first. The bank would uncover more. Brian would handle the legal steps. For now, I'd fired my first warning shot. Mason would have to face me eventually. By noon the next day, my phone wouldn't stop buzzing. I was at my desk in Jacksonville trying to focus when Mom's name flashed on my screen. Gretchen, the bank card's not working, she cried the second I answered. I couldn't buy my medicine today. What's happening? Her voice was sharp, almost accusatory, as if I'd done something wrong. My grip tightened around the phone. Mom, I had to lock the account, I said carefully. There's a problem with it. She gasped. You can't just do that without telling us. How are we supposed to pay for things? I wanted to ask why she hadn't told me about the loan, but her panic gave me pause. Maybe she really didn't know. Before I could respond, my phone buzzed again, a text from Mason. Hey, can you send $500? Need to fix my car.no apology. No mention of my email. Just his usual casual tone, like nothing had happened. My blood boiled. He was pretending the Miami trip, the loan, everything didn't exist. That I didn't respond. Instead, I checked my banking notifications. That's when a new alert popped up. A rejected application for a $10,000 credit card, attempted in Dad's name using his social security number. The application had been submitted just the day before, hours after Mason's Miami post. My stomach dropped. This wasn't just about a loan anymore. Mason was now pretending to be Dad, trying to open a credit card under his name. Identity theft. The realization hit like a blow. Anger and disbelief tangled inside me. How could he sink this low? I called Brian right away. He answered with his usual calm tone. What's going on, Gretchen? I told him everything, the credit card attempt, the fake rent, the pattern I'd uncovered. My voice shook as I spoke. This is serious, Brian said evenly. We'll send a formal cease and desist letter, ordering him to stop using your parents' identities. I'll handle it today. Good, I said firmly. Make sure he knows legal actions next if he keeps this up. Brian promised to have the letter drafted and mailed to Mason's Gainesville apartment before evening. When the call ended, I stared at Mom's missed call flashing on my screen. I wanted to ring her back, ask if she knew about the credit card, but I hesitated. Her panic earlier had sounded genuine, yet her silence about the loan still gnawed at me. Maybe Mason had convinced her to stay quiet. Instead, I sent a text. Mom, I'm dealing with the bank issue. I'll make sure you get your medication. Please don't try to use the card right now. Her reply came quickly, okay. Nothing more. I couldn't tell if she was hiding something or just caught in Mason's web. Mason's last text still sat unanswered on my phone. I typed out a response, then deleted it. Talking to him wouldn't help. He'd twist my words like always. The letter from Brian would speak for me. I leaned back in my chair, the weight of it all pressing down. Mom's worry, Mason's shameless request, the credit card attempt. It was too much. I reopened the fraud report from the bank and studied it again. The credit card form had Dad's name but Mason's email address. Careless. Overconfident. He must have thought I wouldn't check. But I did, and I wasn't letting it slide. By 5 o'clock, Brian's email came through with the draft. The letter was short, professional, and cutting. Cease all unauthorized use of Henry Holt's personal and financial information, including any attempts to open credit lines. Failure to comply will result in legal consequences. I approved it instantly. My hands didn't even shake this time. The letter would reach Mason the next morning. I didn't know how he'd react, but I was ready. My family wasn't who I thought they were, and I had to face that truth head-on. A week later, everything shifted again. At 8 p.m. on Saturday, my phone rang. A Gainesville number I didn't recognize. A nurse's voice came through. Your father's been in a car accident, she said. He's stable, but you should come. My heart stopped. Within minutes, I booked the next flight from Jacksonville and threw clothes into a bag. By 10:30 p.m., I was at Shands Hospital. Dad was in a third-floor room, hooked to monitors, one leg in a cast. Mom sat beside him, her eyes red and swollen. "Dad, you're going to be okay," I whispered, holding his hand. He nodded weakly. "Just lost control on I-75. I'm fine." The doctor pulled me aside, explaining that Dad had a fractured femur and a concussion. He needed surgery and a week of recovery. The bill was already at $30,000 with more coming. I didn't think twice. "Send me the invoice," I told the billing staff. By midnight, I transferred the payment. Dad was going to get the care he needed. Mom hugged me, whispering, "Thank you, Gretchen." But her hands trembled, and I could feel something deeper behind her gratitude. The next morning, Mason showed up. No apology, no acknowledgement of the chaos he'd caused. He leaned against the wall, arms crossed, casual as ever. "You need to unlock the bank account," he said. "Mom can't even buy coffee." I stared at him, jaw tight. "The account stays locked," I said evenly. "You know exactly why." He smirked. "You're making this harder than it has to be." I wanted to explode, to scream every word I'd been holding back. But Dad was right there, half asleep from medication. So I walked into the hall, motioning for Mason to follow. "Why are you doing this?" I demanded, voice low and sharp. "The loan, the credit card, the lies, what's your endgame?" He rolled his eyes. "You're overreacting. Just open the account and we'll be fine. No guilt. No apology. Nothing." I turned away, fists clenched, and went back to Dad's room. Mom was adjusting his pillow, avoiding my eyes. I guided her out to the waiting area. "Mom, I need the truth," I said quietly. "What's going on with Mason?" Tears welled in her eyes. She looked down, voice trembling. "Mason made me call you that night about the rent," she said. "He told me it was urgent. I didn't know about the loan until you mentioned it. He said it was for your father's medical bills." Her voice broke. "I should have told you, but he's my son." My heart sank. Dad had no idea. He still thought the rent call had been real. Mom had gone along with it, scared, manipulated. I hugged her, but my mind was spinning. Mason had used her, used Dad's name, and now stood here acting like nothing had happened. I called the billing office again to confirm the payment for Dad's surgery. It had gone through. His operation was scheduled for the next morning. Mason sat in the waiting area, scrolling on his phone like he had no part in any of it. By evening, Dad was more alert, cracking jokes between grimaces of pain. I stayed until visiting hours ended. As Mom walked me to the parking lot, she said softly, "I'm sorry, Gretchen. I didn't know how to stop him." I nodded, but the weight of it stayed heavy in my chest. Mason wasn't just hurting me anymore. He was tearing our family apart. When Dad began to recover, I made a decision. Once he could walk with a cane, I moved both him and Mom into a small apartment near the hospital, away from the chaos, away from Mason. I covered the first year's rent myself, signed the lease, and helped them move in over a weekend. "You'll be safe here," I said, handing Mom the keys. She smiled faintly. "You're too good to us." I didn't respond. I wasn't doing it for thanks. I was doing it to protect them. Next, I handled the last piece tying us to Mason, the 5-acre family land just outside Gainesville. It had been in our family for decades. I listed it, sold it for $200,000, and after the fees, split the money evenly between Mom and Dad, sending $90,000 each. I kept back $20,000, the exact amount of the fraudulent loan Mason had taken. "That's his debt," I told Mom over coffee. "He doesn't get a cent until it's repaid." She nodded silently. Dad, still recovering, agreed. 2 weeks later, I got served with legal papers. Mason had hired a lawyer, claiming I'd stolen his share of the land sale. He demanded a third of the full $200,000, accusing me of theft. I laughed bitterly and forwarded the notice to Brian. "He's unbelievable," I said. Brian didn't even flinch. "We have everything we need, the loan, the credit card attempt, the fake rent story." He doesn't have a case. In court, Brian laid it all out: the loan documents, the Miami hotel charges, the rejected credit card application. The judge dismissed Mason's lawsuit immediately and ordered him to pay my legal fees, another $5,000 he didn't have. I thought it was over, until my cousin Seth sent me $300 on Venmo with a note. "Sorry for believing Mason," I called him, confused. "What is this?" I asked. Seth sighed. Mason said the Miami trip was a family getaway and asked me to chip in. I sent him $300. He said it was a surprise for you. My jaw dropped. Mason hadn't just used me, he'd conned our cousin too. That night I sat with Mom and Dad and told them everything. Mom's eyes filled with tears. I should have stopped him sooner, she whispered. Dad shook his head. I trusted him too, Gretchen. We both did. I didn't push. They were already broken by the truth. I just made one thing clear. Mason wasn't allowed near their new home. They agreed. I sent another $1,000 for their first month's utilities, making sure they'd be okay. The next day, Brian confirmed the court ruling was final. You're in the clear, he said. I thanked him, but peace didn't follow. Mason's lies had fractured us in ways no verdict could fix. Later that night, I stared at my phone. Seth's $300 Venmo transfer still visible. A small number, but a painful reminder of how far Mason's deceit had spread. 8 months passed. My life was calmer. Mason had disappeared. Left Gainesville after the lawsuit, buried under debt. Word was he'd moved to Atlanta chasing some new scheme. No calls, no texts, no trace. I didn't expect any. Mom and Dad had finally found some peace. Their apartment was cozy, near a park and community center. Mom joined a book club. You look happy, I told her one afternoon. She smiled softly. I'm trying, Gretchen. Dad started playing chess with a group of retirees, teasing me about my city job in Jacksonville. Life felt normal again, steady, safe. Parker invited me to dinner one evening. You deserve a night off, he'd said. We met at a small Italian place by the river. We laughed over pasta, shared dessert, and talked about work. Nothing heavy, just easy conversation. For the first time in months, I felt free, lighter somehow. Looking back, I realized something I should have known all along. Family doesn't mean giving endlessly. Love doesn't mean losing yourself. Mason's lies, the fake rent, the loan, the theft, taught me that self-respect matters just as much as loyalty. Cutting him off was painful. Every time I saw Mom's tired eyes or Dad's cane, I wondered if I'd done the right thing. But I know now. Helping them meant saving myself too. I wasn't their fixer or their wallet. I was their daughter, and I finally learned where to draw the line. This story isn't just mine. It's for anyone who's carried too much, trusted too deeply, or had to choose between love and survival. You can still care, still forgive, and still walk away. Mason taught me that. Mom and Dad taught me to rebuild. And I'm still learning every day how to balance love with strength. Thank you for hearing my story. If it resonates with you, share your thoughts below. Your stories remind us we're not alone.